Power Girl first appeared in the DC universe in All-Star Comics issue 58 back in 1976. Created by Gerry Conway, Estrada, and Wally, she's the cousin of Superman, and shares many similar powers to the flagship superhero. She's been a member of some of DC's finest superhero teams, from the Justice Society of America, Birds of Prey, Justice League Europe, and Infinity Inc. to name a few. Kara has a whole fascinating history behind her, on the pages of the comics and off. So today we're diving into our list of the top 10 Power Girl surprising facts. Also be sure to stick around to the end of the video, we'll be reading off some comments from a previous list. Let's get to it. Number 10, she's from Earth 2. Power Girl, aka Kara Zor-El, is the alternate of Supergirl from Earth 2, which was the designated Earth for all of DC's heroes from the Golden Age. She's more mature and experienced than Supergirl, yet has a similar origin as her counterpart, being Superman's cousin, an origin that got changed a lot. On Earth 2, her best pal is actually Batman's daughter, Huntress, who she often fights crime with as one of Earth's greatest heroes. Because of events that we'll be discussing later on, she became stranded in the main continuity of the DC universe, and has pretty much stuck around there ever since. And at number 9, her first origin. Back in 1975, DC decided to relaunch a title that it had back in the Golden Age, All-Star Comics, which would follow the Justice Society, in an attempt to bank off the success that the Justice League comic was having. In this relaunch, a group of heroes called the Super Squad were created. It featured an older Robin, the Star-Spangled Kid who was brought back from the Golden Age, and a brand new female character in order to balance them out. They decided that this character would be Earth 2's Supergirl, since Supergirl and Earth 1 had emerged after the multiverse was established, and Earth 2's Superman had never had one. She was named Kara Zor-El, with the L being spelled with the letter rather than EL, in order to help distinguish her as the Earth 2 Supergirl and match Kal-El's Earth 2 spelling. The editors had included a little note on the panels of her introduction comic that stated that Superman had kept her secret, which is why we had never heard of her before. Thus, Power Girl was born. She was a hit with readers, being portrayed as a feminist icon and a brash and outspoken personality. Moving on to number 8, her second origin. Later on in All-Star Comics, there was a story in which Earth 2's Superman made an appearance, and Kara's origin was revised ever so slightly. It was revealed that Kara had come to Earth also on a rocket from Krypton, but her ship was actually slower than Superman's, hence why she showed up in the comics much later than Earth 1's Supergirl had. This made it easier to believe that she had been kept a secret for only a handful of years rather than like a decade, as the initial issue implied. And at number 7, her third origin. In 1977, Power Girl's origins changed yet again, once again ever so slightly, and this time was portrayed in a dream sequence. After having a successful run so far in All-Star Comics, DC gave Power Girl a solo run in Showcase, which was a common move on the publisher's behalf when testing out the potential a character could have for a solo series. Kara's father, Zor-El, had created his own modified version of the spaceship that his brother, Superman's father, had crafted. While Kara was flying through space, her mind was in suspended animation, or rather in a state of virtual reality, that would ensure that she was given a proper Kryptonian education. It's actually this new origin detail that fans of the 1978 Superman film would see up on the big screen, the similar concept making its way into the movie for Superman. And at number 6, Crisis on Infinite Earths. In the 70s, DC had to cut back on a bunch of its titles. It was a bit of a difficult time for the publisher. This included All-Star Comics. Power Girl's story would continue. She would appear in All-Star Squadron and Infinity Inc. at that time. Then came 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths, the story event that would abandon the DC multiverse and revise the continuity, because Marv Wolfman didn't like it, with the Justice Society having existed during the Golden Age, and the heroes like Superman and Batman being revised so that there were no Earth 2 versions of them. In issues 11 and 12 of Crisis, Earth 2 characters were pretty much removed, and were given somewhat of a confusing explanation to revise timelines accordingly. But Power Girl kind of just remained in limbo. She didn't have any aesthetic ties to Superman either, and thus her origin was retconned in a major way, along with many other characters' origins that were altered and changed in the stories immediately following Crisis, all of which were very confusing. And at number 5, she's an Atlantean. Power Girl's retcon story became really weird. She was told that she was actually a descendant of an Atlantean sorcerer. Now if you're scratching your head wondering why, well, so did a lot of other readers at the time. DC released a title called Secret Origins to help clear up a lot of the confusing origin stories and retcons after Crisis. And issue 11 of Secret Origins, that came out in 1987, Power Girl along with Hawkman were highlighted. This issue is known as one of the more confusing post-Crisis stories, since it declared that Power Girl remembered the events of Crisis, which was like not a thing anyone else did really, and that she was actually revealed to be an Atlantean, with her powers being the result of her Atlantean sorcerer grandfather messing around with her genetics. All in all, it was an attempt to justify why Power Girl had not been wiped out of the continuity like most of her other Earth 2 peers had been, and and it was pretty messy. It's a whole chapter of the character's past that is often ignored, and was officially retconned in 2005's Infinite Crisis story arc, which restored her as being from Krypton, although she would get yet another origin story reboot in the New 52 that would show her as the cousin and adopted daughter of Earth 2's Superman, and that was when she got stranded yet again on Earth 0. And at number 4, her son. The weird Atlantean stuff didn't end there. In Justice League International issue 52, Power Girl got slammed with a really silly storyline where she mysteriously became pregnant. How is this explained? Well, her grandfather, that Atlantean sorcerer, used magic to knock her up. This happened during the 0-hour crossover event. She would leave the team and join the Justice League of America, and then give birth to a boy whose name was Equinox, whose purpose as far as his grandpappy was concerned was to fight an Atlantean demon by the name of Scarabus, who Equinox, according to prophecy, was meant to defeat. Equinox defeated the demon and then was never heard from again after 1996. It's safe to assume that he's been retconned out of existence, since there is actually a new Equinox on Prime Earth whose real name is Mia Bin Marten, a teenage superhero who goes on to join the Justice League United, and is also from Canada. In at number 3, Kryptonite. Being Superman's cousin and also Kryptonian, it would make sense that Kara's weaknesses would include Kryptonite, but in Superman issue 670, Kara is shown to not be affected by Kryptonite from New Earth. This was the product of retconning that occurred at Infinite Crisis issue 7. Now back then, prior to Crisis on Infinite Earths, Kryptonite from other Earths did work on Kryptonians who were not from that Earth, like when Ultraman from Earth 3 fought against Earth 2's Kal-El and the Earth 1 Superman. Now Kara was also briefly affected by unprocessed raw natural materials. I'm talking branches and rocks. This happened for a while, as seen in Supergirl Volume 4 issue 16. Up next, number 2, Marvel's Disdain. Back when Power Girl first hit the scene, she had some critics, specifically Stan Lee over at Marvel. In 1978, Stan Lee noted that a few years prior when Power Girl was created, he was pretty darn annoyed, since Marvel had created Power Man, aka Luke Cage, just a few years before that in 1972. Lee stated, I quote, "I'm pretty annoyed about that. I've got to ask the Marvel lawyer. She's supposed to be starting a lawsuit about that and I haven't heard anything. I don't like the idea. You know, years ago we brought out Wonder Man, and DC sued us because they had Wonder Woman, and I said, okay, I'll discontinue Wonder Man. All of a sudden, they've got Power Girl. Oh boy, how unfair." Lee's disdain didn't end there. Marvel would go on to make a joke about the situation in one of their What If comics, issue 34 in 1982, in a panel that included a title that read, "What if Wonder Man were a woman and Power Man were a girl?" along with images of the two characters drawn as the opposite gender, and a note in between them that read, "Dear Marvel, our lawyers advise you not to print this gag. With love, your distinguished competitor." A slight jab at DC, with distinguished competitor standing for DC Comics. And finally, in at number 1, the sexual harassment. Despite her independent and brash behavior, Power Girl has always been plagued by objectification. Now, according to rumors, Wally, who was one of her creators, reportedly told his friends that he had planned to draw Power Girl's breasts bigger and bigger as All-Star issues went on, until editors finally caught on and told him to stop. But apparently, none of the editors ever did, as the story goes. Since her early days, Power Girl has constantly had to deal with a whole lot of harassment from male characters, even in her very first appearance, when Wildcat calls her a chick and a broad, and then she slams the door shut in his face in reaction to it. This would only continue the older that the character got, with her years in the Justice League Europe title modifying her costume to no longer have that oval cutout over her chest, replacing it with a very deep neckline instead that arguably showed off even more cleavage. In the very first issue of Justice League Europe, it became clear that writer Keith Giffen would be using her sexuality as the butt of many of his jokes, with her immediately being harassed by the Flash upon arriving in Europe. She often would be portrayed as obsessing over dieting. Wally West would comment on a new suit of hers by saying he enjoyed seeing skin-tight clothing stretched over awesome female bodies, which Kara would then threaten him by saying he better unnotice it quick. Her villains would grope her occasionally. Then, after Giffen left the title, her original costume made a comeback, although slightly revised. But the ridicule continued. Her costume would be constantly mocked for being too sexual by other characters in the comics. She would often be objectified by her teammates, especially the Flash. A villain by the name of Blue Devil who captured her at one point spent most of his time making crude comments to her. One French superhero by the name of Crimson Fox straight up slut-shamed her by saying, "If your dignity is so precious, why have you this front window in your costume?" Kara would respond with, "The costume only shows what I am. Female, healthy, and strong. If men degrade themselves by staring and drooling and tripping over themselves, that's their problem. I'm not going to apologize for it." I mean, guys, we could go on and on with this number. Kara's sexuality and her harassment have long been staples of the character's stories, and often comedic relief, to the point of making her one of the most harassed characters ever featured on DC's pages. Alright, there we have it, friends. What are your thoughts on Kara? Are you guys Power Girl fans? Let us know in those comments below. Speaking of comments, let's read off a few from one of our previous videos, top 10 things we want to see in the Avengers 4 trailer. From Woozle03 Productions, considering the title of the Avengers 4 movie, it can't be Avengers Assemble because that was the name of the first film. Now this is something that some of you in North America might not be privy to and is a really good point. The UK release of the first Avengers film was titled Avengers Assemble, which was due to the fear that the film's title might get confused with the TV show The Avengers that ran from 1961 to 1969 and has literally nothing to do with Marvel, but was quite popular. This is one of the reasons why some fans have doubts that the film will be titled Assemble, and why some believe that Endgame is way more likely, although there is a lot of theories out there that think it might be called Eternity because of the Celestials' potential involvement, and the fact that the Russo brothers denied that Avengers Forever would be the title, but said the actual title was something similar. Speculate away, friends. Next up, from Luis Ricardo Vera Suarez. Personally, I don't think Doctor Strange wanted to save Stark per se. Rather, as I see it, what was needed was Thanos winning. Temporarily. Why so? Not sure, but maybe letting him win was the very key to his destruction. Now, considering Thanos' track record in the comics, that's a pretty solid theory. Thanos has a habit of failing due to his own self-doubt and insecurities, something that Adam Warlock would use against him on one occasion. It would be one hell of a way to conclude the Infinity War storyline too. Alright, that's it for now guys. If you folks dug this video, hit that like button. And if you're new, why not subscribe? We'd love it if you stuck around some more. In the meantime though, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.